Graham Potter's got some big decisions to make in regards to West Ham's playing squad this summer. And that decision varies from player to player and position to position. But I do think some are more urgent than others. Niklas Füllkrug, for example, I think you can give him the pre-season. You can have a look at him and then decide late July if you want to retain him or look to move him on. The academy players will be one of the last decisions that's made during the summer. They'll be involved in pre-season, but once we've done the majority of signing players and selling players and we can see what the squad looks like, you then look to see if there's room for them in the first team, or would they be better off going out on loan and getting their minutes elsewhere. But on the other side, there's some decisions I think need to be made ASAP. As soon as the season's finished, decisions have to be called. And one of those is the goalkeeping situation. It's sort of forced on Graham Potter a little bit because of Łukasz Fabianski's contract situation. Got 5 first-team players whose contract expires this summer, which is Fabianski, Creswell, Soufal, Ings, Antonio. So Potter will have to decide on those 5 players by the end of May going into June. Their contract expires at the end of June. Decisions must be made on retaining or releasing. And as fans, it'll be easy to say, oh, release all 5, retain all 5. Some might want to keep 1 or 2 and that's it. I think it's more difficult for Graham Potter when he knows the players. He will know the transfer budget he's got to hand, because it's not just those 5, it's Evan Ferguson and Carlos Soler as well. It's perfectly feasible that we will go into the summer transfer window 7 players short of where the squad is today. We could release all 5, decide not to sign Soler, not to sign Ferguson. We will be 7 players short. Yes, Potts will be back and Agard will be back. But these are the choices that have to be decided upon quick. Because whether you keep them or release them will shape and determine what you need to do in the summer transfer window. But today we're going to focus on one position, and that's the goalkeeping one. Because over on Patreon a couple of weeks ago, I put up a poll and said, what do you want me to talk about? I'll do the video, I'll do the subject for Patreon. They chose Tim Steiden, so I did that video, went down quite well. Ended up having a half-hour natter about Tim Steiden in the end. So I'll do it again this week. This is not the Patreon video, this is for YouTube. I've stole the question from Mike that I know. I'm going to discuss that on YouTube for one reason in particular, because there's someone I really want. But anyway, Mike said, I'm going to keep asking, so apologies if I'm getting on your nerves. The goalkeeper situation. Who should be 1, 2 and 3? How do we deal with Areola's inconsistency and previous, if not current, unhappiness? Should Fabianski be given another year? And if not, should we bring in another number 1 or second choice keeper in the summer? With no European football, should Fabianski and Areola share games based on form? Was Areola treated unfairly when he was dropped by Lopetegui for poor form, or should he have been given the arm around the shoulder and allowed to play himself back into form? Thank you. Northie, who does the watch-alongs, said, I second this. It's a big problem area for us. We should have gone for Ramsdale when he was available. And Andy says, this is interesting, Northie, because Gio has never rated Aaron Ramsdale. Right, I'm going to answer all those questions. Let's discuss goalkeepers. And I'm looking forward to this because, for example, we need a centre-back in the summer. I don't know who. I don't have a strong desire or a strong opinion on one centre-back in particular that I would love to see at West Ham. I've got one for a striker. I've got one for attacking midfielder. I've got one for a goalkeeper, which is quite helpful in this video. But there's one in particular I think just makes sense. It would cost a bit of money, but I think he'd be a perfect goalkeeper for West Ham. And I would love to see him. I'd always say the claret and blue next season. He doesn't wear it. I'd love to see him in a neon pink next season at the London Stadium. But first, let's deal with Areola and Fabianski. We'll start with Fabianski. It's going to give it away my thoughts on Areola, perhaps. I'd give him a contract extension. I think he's been an absolute model professional whilst at the club. And if we do let him go, we've got to bring somebody else in. Is he good enough to be our number 1? Not anymore. A couple of years ago, I was happy with Fabianski and Areola. I remember a few years ago, we had Randolph and Adrian as our keepers. And I remember Tom saying, we don't have a number 1. We've got 2 sub-keepers. We've got 2 number 13s. And it just made sense. You completely understood what he meant. That both of them are perfectly adequate to be your backup keeper. But neither of them were good enough to be your number 1. A couple of years ago, I felt we had two number ones, Fabianski and Areola, but both of them were good enough to start. And they were both starting because of the European football. One had the league, one had the cups. Now it would be Fabianski with the Premier League games and Areola with the Europa League / Conference League games. And it worked. Both keepers were then kept happy with the amount of game time on offer. And I think this season we've seen the problem with no European football. Game time's limited. It's more difficult to get players in form. It's more difficult to keep players happy. Because we used Moyes, I thought Moyes always used the European games quite well, especially the group stage games. Players who perhaps weren't playing week in, week out in the Premier League, like Lanzini, for example, would then get minutes in the European competition so that when they were called upon in the Premier League, it was fine. You know, Ben Johnson would have a good campaign in European football. Flynn Downs had a good one. So that if they were then needed in the Premier League Saturday, their match sharpness is there. They're in form. It's all good. You're not bringing somebody in from the cold, where that's what we're doing at the minute because we don't have that football there. But also the goalkeeper situation, Moyes was able to sort of have two number ones. Because you could argue that actually your main goalkeeper is the cup goalkeeper when you're European football because we went on to win a trophy. But you could argue it's the guy in the league. Which one is it? I think it's the one in the league. But there's an argument to be had. But it's gone now. It's whoever starts on a Saturday afternoon, and that is that. Now, at the minute, that's Areola. But I have to say, this season, I do feel like neither are good enough to be West Ham's number one. I think Fabianski's been better than Areola this season. Perhaps unpopular. That's how I feel. But I think he deserved to have been dropped. Should Lopetegui put his arm around Areola? I don't know if you can as a goalkeeper. I think if you've got a striker out of form or a midfielder out of form, you can allow them to have a few poor games to try and get themselves back into that form. Because ultimately, it's not as... You don't get as punished as much as you do your goalkeeper. Your goalkeeper's not in form or is a little bit ropey. He's conceding goals. Look at Sanchez at Chelsea right now. He had to be dropped. He's been crap. Big, high-profile mistakes. That's what happens when you play a goalkeeper back into form. You get punished in the meantime. Whereas an outfielder, I think, is a bit more forgiving. He's got 9 other outfielders next to him to help him out and see him through that difficult spell. So I don't think you can put your arm around him as such. I think he deserved to have been dropped. I was pleased when he was dropped. But I know how I feel about the keepers because when we do the previews at the moment, and myself and Gonzo pick the team we want to see, my opinion regarding the number one is I'm not that bothered. Start Fabianski, start Areola. I don't really care. I trust each of them as much as the other one. I think they're both good goalkeepers, but I don't think either are brilliant goalkeepers at the minute. And I want to sign one in the summer. But I'd retain Łukasz Fabianski. He has got a bit upset with not being the number one at West Ham, but hopefully he is okay with taking the number 2 role in the goalkeeper situation. Perhaps not. Maybe Fabianski won't want to sign a new contract, but this is on the assumption he's happy at West Ham. I've never heard a bad word about him, quite the opposite. A lot of players that played with him have said how calm he is and how composed he is and how important he is in the changing room and stuff like that. I'm happy for him to stay at West Ham next season. I want him to stay at West Ham next season, just not as number one. Right then, from keeping clean sheets and keeping the ball out of the net to keeping your devices safe, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN which gives you an extra layer of security for your devices. But my favourite thing, as you may know by now, is allowing you to change your geolocation. So if I was to go abroad, I want to access my usual content back here in the UK, click a couple of buttons, and my device thinks I'm back in the UK when I'm on a sunbed in Spain. Now, that doesn't happen because I don't like lounging around on a sunbed. I'm Scottish. I have pale skin. I burn. I kid you not. When I moved from Scotland to England, I struggled with English weather for the first 12 months or something. Genuinely, I did. The summer was too hot for me. Then in the winter, I'd be going about in a t-shirt and other people would be wearing jackets. So they were looking at me thinking, you're a nutter. I was just used to it being -3 degrees, not 3 degrees. A 6-degree swing is quite significant. Anyway, no sunbed, but if I was next to the pool in Spain, I could change my geolocation. Also, if you get a Surfshark account, you only need one account to cover all your devices. Unlimited devices. Unlimited. So I've got it on my phone, I've got it on my iPad, I've got it on my computer, and I've also got it on my daughter's mobile phone as well, so that I know her device is safe, because she's got things on there I don't want people accessing. So if I can have that extra layer of security, which I do with Surfshark, good. But we've got an offer for you. We've got a special offer. 4 months free. Surfshark.com/Hammers Chat. Links in the description below. If you go there, the offer is automatically applied to your basket. There's no code or anything like that, so don't go looking for the promo code box. There isn't one. You put that URL in, click the link, the offer is there, it's ready, it's signed up for you. It varies depending on how many months you want to take. The price varies. However, it's less than £2 per month. Less than £2 per month for the most popular package on Surfshark. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So you change your mind, get a full refund. Simple as that. Links in the description below. Surfshark.com/Hammers Chat. It's Kelleher, by the way. The goalkeeper I really want is Kelleher of Liverpool. We're going to discuss Areola first, but that's who it is. I feel like I've dragged out long enough. Areola, I'd sell him. And this is why I'd retain Łukasz Fabianski. If both players' contracts were up in the summer, I'd release Fabianski and offer Areola a new one. However, that is not the case. Areola still has a transfer value. What that is, argue amongst yourself, but let's just say 8 million, right? A bit less than we paid. Let's just play it safe. 8 million. It's a lot of money, really, for the summer at West Ham. I do think there's going to be a lot of stories coming out in the summer to just warn us we're not going to have much money to spend. I think we're going to get told the cupboard is bare. We spent a lot of money, which we did. Spent a lot of money last summer. We don't have European football. Income's down drastically, which is true. So I think we're going to get a lot of warning that we're not going to be spending big money this summer, and I get it. I still think we'll spend plenty. I assume our net spend will be 50, 60 million or something like that. But we've got a lot to do. We have a lot to do. Tadebo's come in. We spoke about Ferguson and Salah. You sign a striker, 50, 60 million. What you got left after that? I imagine the answer is not that much. So selling players that is worth money is going to be crucial to us. And I think Areola is worth probably 8 million. Someone will buy him. He's a good goalkeeper. He's also on big wages at West Ham as well. So for that's the reason. The only reason I sell Areola and retain Fabianski is purely financial reasons. It's not goalkeeping ability or anything like that. But also, as Mike said, he has been unhappy. His wife does get a little bit chirpsy on social media when he's not playing. It doesn't bother me that much. As far as I'm aware, it hasn't caused problems. He's a big part of the French side. And I don't want to say clique, because it's a negative thing, isn't it? It sounds like a little gang or something, a little clique in the changing room. But that French contingent in the changing room, Areola has been a big part of that since he's been here. I've got no problems with him, and he's been a really good servant for us and played his part. But I think now, this summer, would possibly be the right time to say thank you very much and look to offload him and bring someone else in. So that's what I would do, those two. The third choice keeper, Wes Fodringham's still got a year to go. Just keep him. His wages will be so low cost. I've heard good things about him pre-West Ham in regards to training ground and stuff like that. There's been no bad stories about him whilst he's been here. Just keep Fodringham, and hopefully in the summer 2026, one of the younger goalkeepers is ready to replace Wes Fodringham. That would be ideal. Kelleher of Liverpool, 26-year-old Irish #1 goalkeeper. I think he's fantastic. And this summer, there's a unique opportunity, I think, for a club to go get one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. I rate him highly. I've spoken on Patreon. I do an opposition preview where I guess what the other team's going to do and talk about their tactics a little bit and whatever. In the last 2 weeks, because we've played Aston Villa and Chelsea, I've discussed if you were to rank all the #1s in the Premier League in order, not tier listing, in 1 to 20, where each one would sit. Now, Martinez, for me, would be quite near the top, and Robert Sanchez would be near the bottom. If I was to add a 21st goalkeeper, Alisson would be my #1. I think Alisson's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. I think he's world-class. I think he's the only world-class goalkeeper in the Premier League. Now, he's not been the same since his injury, but he's getting better. And I think he's just unbelievable. And I don't think he gets enough plaudits because he plays for Liverpool. He's not as busy as Jordan Pickford, for example. But I think sensational keeper, Alisson. So he's number one. If I was to add a 21st goalkeeper, which is Kelleher, he'd be near the top for me. He'd be, I don't know, I haven't thought about it properly. 5th, 6th, 7th, 4th, I don't know. It's in there anyway. I think he's got it all. I think his crossings, claiming crosses, he's all right. The distribution with his feet's really good. Distribution by throwing out's really good. His shot stopping's fantastic. He ticks a lot of boxes, a really good age, and I just think he is a fantastic keeper. And it's a unique opportunity because I think he's good enough for Liverpool. I think he's a good enough goalkeeper for Liverpool. The only problem with Kelleher is, or for Kelleher, is that Alisson is at Liverpool as well. I think he'd start for most other clubs in the Premier League. I think Kelleher would start for Man City, not Arsenal. I think Raya would start above him. I think he'd start at Chelsea, and I think that's where he should go, by the way. I think Kelleher should go to Chelsea. I think Chelsea should sign him. But we could keep going down the list. I think he'd start for Newcastle. I think he'd maybe not Villa. Who else we got up there? Bournemouth. He'd start from Bournemouth. He'd start maybe not Forest because Sells is having an incredible season, but I think he's a better goalkeeper than Sells. But Sells is having a better season. The point is, he's brilliant. He's only got a year left on his contract come the summer. Alisson's got 2. So there's a lot of, understandably, all the attention's on Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold and Salah, but actually they've got a little bit of a contract situation with the goalkeepers here because they either need to, one of them needs to leave this summer. Kelleher has spoken plenty times now about leaving Liverpool to play first team football week in, week out. So Liverpool have to decide whether to move Alisson on and make him their number one choice or cash in on Kelleher and stick with Alisson for at least another year. And I think they'll do the latter. Because Kelleher will command a big transfer fee. I don't know what it is, right? I don't know. I find it difficult to price up some players that I watch week in, week out that play up front. Never mind I think a goalkeeper must be one of the more difficult ones to price up because often I see keepers move and I think, well, that's cheap. And on the other side, I see them move and I think, how much? Bloody hell. I find goalkeepers the one. So I'm just going to go and say 30 million. Okay. I could be miles off. He could end up going for 50. He could end up going for 15. He won't. I think 30, 40 million is the price tag I'd place on Kelleher. Incredibly expensive. But I think you'd be sorting, in theory, your number one goalkeeping position for 6, 7, 8, 10 years with him. I think he's that good. I do. And I think we've seen the significance of your number one at West Ham with the current goalkeepers. Because I don't think I'm saying anything wild when I say the performances aren't as good as they were a couple of years ago. But when we signed Fabianski and we paid 6, 7 million for him, which isn't something we always do at West Ham, spending money on a goalkeeper. But look at what we've got. We're the top goalkeeper for numerous seasons now at West Ham United. He's been fantastic. He will be in the conversation for being our best goalkeeper in the Premier League era at West Ham. Out of anybody, he will be in the conversation. I didn't see Ludo enough to debate whether he's better than Ludo. So for me, is he better than Rob Green? I think he was. So he's possibly if I was to do my best ever West Ham 11, he'd probably be in there. But like I said, I didn't see Ludo. I know people say, Phil Parks, don't get offended. I don't know. I didn't see him. I had someone, Paul, just yesterday saying about Noble, and then he said, well, he's not Brooklyn or Devonshire. I've never claimed he was. You're debating about something that's not a thing. Anyway, Fabianski, brilliant. We paid the money and we've got it. Areola, I think he was brilliant. I think when I say first came in, he took a little while to get into the team, but when he wasn't, I think he was really good. He's been a top goalkeeper for us. I think his weaknesses have been exposed more. I think now we're shifting to a different style of football under Graham Potter. I think they will continue to be exposed. His shot stopping is unbelievable, but I think the other areas of his game, I don't think he can kick to the left to save his life. His throwing's really good. His high claims at crosses is poor. So is Fabianski's. And I think we've got an opportunity to invest substantially in the goalkeeping position here this summer because Kelleher's available. If he wasn't, I'd say keep Fabianski, use the money elsewhere. Get the striker in, sort the centre-backs, get a midfielder in. But Kelleher won't be available next summer. It's this summer. It's now or never if you want to go get him. Someone will get him. And whoever gets him will get a top goalkeeper. And I would love him in the neon pink at West Ham next season. Right, I'm off. Thank you very much to Mike for the questions. Adam Ramsdale, I've never been his biggest fan. Andy's correct. I wouldn't sign him for West Ham this summer. It's not that I think he's a bad goalkeeper. I just don't think he's worth the value. He'd cost 20, 25 million. I think there's better goalkeepers out there for 20, 25 million. I was going to discuss the difficulties of identifying a goalkeeper, but I've been blabbering away for 20 minutes already, so we'll leave it there and we'll pick it up in a different video if people care enough. But like it by clicking thumbs up, subscribe to Hammers Chat. I'll catch you tomorrow.